Chancellor. It is late 1944. The Nazis have occupied Hungary and Jewish families have been concentrated in Budapest into the ghetto. A young Jewish woman, Leona Grunwald, is ordered to report to a collection point. She does not know it, but the destination for her train is Auschwitz-Birkenau and certain death. In secret, 450,000 Hungarian Jews have already been murdered there that summer. With virtually no food available in the ghetto, Leona takes her baby daughter, Agnes, our honorary graduand, with her so that she can be breastfed. This most maternal act will save both their lives. For at the last moment, the Nazi official, we know not why, decides to pull women with children off the train. As if by a miracle, they are saved. And in January 1945, Budapest is liberated by Soviet forces. Agnes Grunwald-Spier, standing before us today, was therefore one of the youngest survivors of the Holocaust. Through her books and talks, she is a passionate campaigner to ensure awareness of the Holocaust and its survivors remains in the public eye. Her Austrian father, Philip, had survived several harrowing years in forced labor camps in Poland. With the end of the war, he decided to smuggle the family out of Hungary and across war-ravaged Europe. In 1947, they moved to the UK and safety. Agnes has no brothers or sisters, as her father felt the world was too cruel a place into which to bring children. And such were the horrors of his wartime experience that sadly he took his own life when she was only 10. But, Chancellor, Agnes found stability in the United Kingdom. In 1991, Agnes moved to Dore in Sheffield and spent 10 active years getting very involved in the life of the city before moving to London in 2002 to be closer to her children. It was only when she was in her 50s that she realised she knew little of the Holocaust and wanted to learn more for herself and her sons. When the Anne Frank exhibition, commemorating the life of the famous diarist, came to Sheffield's Graves Gallery in 1995, she volunteered to get involved. In later years, she visited Anne Frank's house in Amsterdam and was struck by the queues of people trying to get in when all Anne had wanted was to get out. She also wrote to the Queen because one of Anne's treasured postcards was of the young princesses Elizabeth and Margaret. And this gave Agnes a real sudden immediacy about the lives of the persecuted and frightened. Wishing to learn more about her past, she undertook the MA in Holocaust Studies here at the University of Sheffield, graduating in 1998. Her dissertation was on the American rescuer Varian Fry, who, as an agent for the US Emergency Rescue Committee, travelled to Marseille with $3,000 strapped to his leg to help Jewish artists wishing to flee the Nazis. Planning to help 200 artists, he succeeded in helping nearly 4,000 Jews escape from Vichy France. Agnes's initial research in Sheffield led her to writing 3 highly significant books. She wants to ensure that survivors' stories are recorded before they are lost. She is also passionate about telling these stories as ammunition against Holocaust deniers. In 1905, the College of Arms in London created a beautiful design for the university's coat of arms on the screen behind. It features an angel holding a heraldic shield. Behind the angel is a 13th century Latin inscription, Umbram fugat veritas, noctum lux eliminat, from St. Thomas Aquinas. This can be translated as, the light of truth dispels the darkness of the night. These words are not only extremely apposite for a seat of learning, but, Chancellor, they epitomise what our honorary graduate has devoted her energies to through her research, her publications, and her desire that the events of the Holocaust must not be forgotten. Today, her alma mater is proud to honour her and to thank her publicly for her tremendous contribution to ensuring that truth will prevail. She was inspired to speak and write so that the events of the Nazi occupations and subsequent genocides will never be repeated, so that innocent people will never again be arrested and murdered based on their race or religion, and to create an environment free from the dangers of persecution and hatred. Chancellor, I present Agnes Grunwald-Spier as eminently worthy to receive the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
Chancellor, Lord Mayor, graduates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Chancellor, for your very kind words, and thank you to Miles for your wonderful introduction. I'm extremely honoured to receive this doctorate. At my time of life, it is even more meaningful, and I'd really like to thank the university for their recognition of my work on the Holocaust. I am very touched and only sorry that my dear parents, who went through so much, aren't here to share the day with me, but my 3 sons and some very dear friends are. It's very strange for me to stand on this platform. My 3 sons all went to Birkdale School, and every year we trooped along to the annual prize giving. But the only time anyone ever collected a prize was when we won the Christmas family quiz in 1995. I've only got 5 minutes, so I can't say very much, but I could be like President Jean-Claude Juncker, who apparently got the same degree in 2012 and spoke for a whole 30 minutes, upsetting the schedule, but I'm not the President of the European Commission, and I do as I'm told. I'd really like to thank the university for running the MA, which I did between 1996 and 98, and it's a shame it only ran for a few years. I'd particularly like to thank Sue Weiss, who was one of the people who organised it, and also the late Brian Burns, who died in 2000, and Hamish Ritchie, who died in 2013. They were both inspirational in their teachings, and I learnt the most enormous amount from them. Doing the MA changed my life, as you have heard, and directly led to me being here today. Although he's not here, I'd also like to mention Emeritus Professor of History Aubrey Newman from Leicester University, who really introduced me to a great deal of what I know about the Holocaust, and he was a very supportive mentor to me when I didn't have as much support as I have now. And I'd particularly like to thank Miles and Wendy Hobson for their organisation of today and all the help they've given beforehand. I'd also like to thank my 3 sons who were completely baffled at Mother becoming a student again whilst they were wrestling with their A-levels. And my eldest son Daniel looked at me and he said, "Mum, if you're going to be a student, does that mean you're going to wear big black boots and go out and get pissed every Friday night?" I said I thought that the big black boots were a bit much. I didn't comment on the Friday nights. There is nothing like knowing that someone wanted to kill you when you were a tiny baby to make you appreciate the joys of life. But with it comes what is known as survivor's guilt as well. Why me? Why did I survive when so many others didn't? Why was I chosen to survive? Was it to do the work I do now, so late in my life? As Miles has said, when I first started speaking about the Holocaust, I was very conscious of speaking for all those millions, including the 1.5 million Jewish children who were murdered by the Nazis just because they were Jewish, and I was so nearly one of them. One of my favourite quotations from the Bible comes from Ecclesiastes chapter 3. "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance." As Miles has said, I had my children after 10 years of marriage, when we had really given up hope. But that was the right time for me. And in the same way, in my 50s, I realised I needed to know about the Holocaust. And as I was thinking about that, I came across a quotation by a Canadian historian, Michael Ignatieff, who has a Russian background. And I can never read this out without having a bit of a sniff, so you'll have to excuse me. He wrote, "There is no way of knowing what my children will make of ancestors from the age of dusty roads and long afternoons on the shaded veranda deep in the Russian countryside. But I want to leave the road marked and lighted so that they can travel into the darkness ahead, as I do, sure of the road behind. I wanted my sons to know where they came from, to have pride in their past and who they were. I know people who are embarrassed by their background or their families. Don't be like that. Be proud of those whose struggles enabled you to be where you are today. If you are the first in your family to get a degree, be proud you had the aspirations. We all have to make choices in life. The American poet Robert Frost wrote in 1916 a lovely poem, "The Road Not Taken." Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. And again, in Shakespeare's Hamlet, Polonius says to Hamlet, "This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man." I think this is really important. As Miles said, I wrote about Holocaust rescuers, and I realised that those that risked their lives to save Jews followed their own instinct for what was right, not what the dictators told them to do. Hopefully, you will never have to deal with the horrors on the scale of the Holocaust, but you may have to decide to speak up at times. If someone makes a racist, anti-Semitic or homophobic comment in your presence, doing nothing is not an option. Edmund Burke is alleged to have said the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, although it's disputed whether he actually said that. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the anti-Nazi German theologian who was hung by the Nazis in 1945, said, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." Actually, what I'd really like to have been is an architect, but things didn't turn out like that. So I think having published books is the next best thing to having buildings left, so that when I'm long gone, my books will still be sitting in the British Library and hopefully being read. Being a published author late in life has some advantages. People are often surprised. They look at me and they see a dumpy old woman and they say, "Oh, I expect you're retired." And I say, "No, I'm not, I'm still working." And they say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I say, "I'm a writer." And one man had the audacity to say, "Oh, cookery books." And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, "No, I write about the Holocaust." So his little face crumpled, and then I said, "I was a baby in the Budapest ghetto." That shut him up. Some people think I write novels, but I also put them straight about that. But coming to all this, the modern thrust of the world, I had to adapt, and I had to learn persistence, and I learned that from my sons. It was very different when I was young. You sat in your corner and waited for the world to come to you, but now you have to go out and grab the world by the throat, and that's what I've tried to do. Elie Wiesel said the Holocaust occurred because of indifference. People were indifferent to the fate of the Jews. Don't be indifferent. Care about the people in your life. Give them your love and your time. Tell them you love them, value them, and all they do for you. And finally, and that's the most important word in the speech, I want to say thank you to all of you for listening so patiently. I'm very conscious that whilst this is my big day, it is also your big day. You, your mum and dad, haven't schlepped all the way to Sheffield to listen to an old bat like me wittering on. You've all worked so hard to get to this day. And as you begin what my favourite lyricist, Tom LittD, describes as sliding down the razor blade of life. Enjoy your life, be happy and successful. I wish you all great happiness, good fortune, and success in all the years to come. Have a wonderful day. I certainly intend to. Thank you.